Hey everyone, it's Alice here from Top Mark Science, and today we're going to be looking at seed dispersal. Throughout this video, we will be exploring the structures of the seed and how they aid development, competition between seeds and parent plants, and methods of seed dispersal. Let's get started. A seed is produced as a result of plant pollination and fertilization. From pollen, whether it be from the anther of the same plant or carried from another plant elsewhere in cross-pollination, and this lands on the stigma, which triggers the development of a pollen tube down the style of the plant, allowing the transport of pollen grains towards the ovary, and this pollen grain eventually reaches the eggs and their nuclei fuse together, which leads to the production of a seed which will later on become a new plant. But to germinate, to grow, they need some key ingredients: the right temperature, the right concentration of oxygen, and water. And without these things, a seed can lay dormant. This means to rest or be inactive until the conditions are right. Now, for the seed to have a successful germination, there are some key structures that help it, such as a coat, a tough protective outer covering, a food store, which contains starch for use until it's able to do photosynthesis, and an embryo, the young part made up of a root and shoot that will later become the adult plant, potentially one of these. Pause the video here and have a go at tasks 1 and 2 on the screen now. Task 1 is to use the words in the box to complete the sentences. You may copy these for revision or just simply list the words in order that they should be used. And task 2 is to match the parts of the seed 1 to 3 with their roles A to C. And if you finish, try the challenge. Let's see what answers you came up with then. Get your marking pens ready. So firstly, fruit comes from flowering plants. The ovary develops into a fruit, and the fertilized ovule forms a seed. In task 2, number 1, the embryo matches up with letter B. It's the young root and shoot that becomes the adult plant. Number 2, the food store is the starch until the plant can do photosynthesis. And number 3 is the seed coat, a tough protective outer covering. And some key things a seed needs to germinate, remember this means to grow and develop, include the right temperature, concentration of oxygen, and water. You might already know that established plants need some key resources to survive, like sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which collectively assist the process of photosynthesis for growth and making food. But for the species to survive in general, the plant needs to reproduce, i.e. making seeds. Take this oak tree for example. By making a seed and releasing it, it falls to the ground, in the hope that the seed germinates with all the right conditions to grow into another new tree. Only the problem is, to grow larger, it now also requires sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, all the same stuff that the already established tree also needs. We now have competition. So it's in the best interest for the established tree to get this young tree as far away from it as possible, so it can reduce competition for resources, a process called seed dispersal, which can happen in a variety of ways to spread the seeds out, where some will be eaten or used, and others may get forgotten about, allowing them to grow. Pause the video here and use the clues to guess the method of seed dispersal. If you finish, try the challenge. Let's see what you came up with then. Some animals eat fleshy fruits containing seeds, and the seeds are eventually passed out through the digestive system in their feces. By this point, the animal has already moved on and so has transported the seed somewhere far away from the adult plant. In other cases, seeds have surface textures that allow them to attach themselves onto the outside of other animals, which again move on and carry the seeds with them. Some plants have pods which can burst open, projecting the seeds away. The wind can carry seeds. Animals might bury them in various places and eventually forget about them. And bodies of water, like rivers, which can carry seeds from one place to another. Some examples are now shown on the screen. You may have others that you've thought about, but here are some others that might help you fill in some gaps. Pause the video here and use what we've just gone through to fill in the summary table of seed dispersal. Use the statements at the bottom to fill in the gaps. Some have already been started for you to give you some clues. Let's go through the table then. Get ready to fill in any gaps that you were unsure of. And on the screen now will be the answers. Give yourselves any ticks for the ones that you got correct and fill in the gaps for the ones you left empty so you can use them again in the future. Moving on then, you may have seen seeds like this before. They are adapted in a way that help get them dispersed by the wind. These are sycamore seeds. As they fall from the tree, they start to twirl around and spin again and again, like a helicopter. They are light and come in different sizes, which means they can spend various amounts of time in the air and get away from the parent plant. We can investigate which sycamore seeds would be most successful by dropping sycamore seeds of various sizes and timing how long they take to reach the ground. Pause the video here to complete tasks 1 to 3 for this investigation, starting with task 1 to copy the results table. But there is no need to calculate anything just yet. If you finish, try the challenge. Let's see how we got on. The independent variable is the thing that changes throughout the experiment. In this case, the size of the seed in centimetres. The dependent is what we measure, so in this case, the time it takes for the seed to fall, in seconds. And the control variables to ensure nothing else interferes with our results that potentially could. We keep these the same. These could include the person responsible for timing, because different people have different reaction times. Again, for similar reasons, the person dropping the sycamore seed itself, and the height from which the seeds are dropped also needs to stay the same, because the distance a seed falls will impact the time it takes to fall. Task 3 hasn't been filled in on my end, because this might vary. However, as a prediction, we might look for something like this, that uses the variables and suggests an outcome. For example, I think seed size something will fall the fastest or slowest. And finally, the challenge, which encourages you to use your knowledge from other areas in science to come up with an explanation, which means we want to use the word because. For example, I think seed size something will disperse the furthest because, and this will be followed by an explanation using your scientific knowledge to back up your reasoning. So let's say we've done the experiment and collected these results. Now it's time to analyse them to see what's going on here and link to ideas. Pause the video here and now try tasks 1 to 5. And if you finish, try the challenge. Let's go through the answers now that you've given this a go. Marking pens ready to fill in the gaps. To calculate the mean, we add up the values and divide by the number of values. For example, for size of seed 1, I add up 1 plus 1.3 plus 1.2. I then divide this answer by 3, and this gives me 1.17. Notice I keep the number of decimal places consistent, even when zeros are included. I repeat this for seed 2. But when we get to seed 3, notice how one number is not following the pattern. This could be due to an error in measurements. This is an anomalous result, and the instructions listed not to include these. So in this case, I simply do 3.98 plus 3.92 and divide the answer of this by 2. and this gives me 3.95. And I also find the mean for seed 4 to complete our table. Well done for completing this section. Now to actually make sense of all these numbers, task 2 was to describe the trend in your results. Describe means to say what you see. We do not need the word because in this, because we are not explaining why this is happening. We're just telling a story of the numbers. For example, as the size of the seed increases, the time it takes to fall increases, or it takes longer to fall. We can even use numbers from the table to back this statement up, like a 1 centimetre seed only takes 1.17 seconds to fall, but a 4 centimetre seed takes longer at 4.77. Now we can explain why a larger seed takes longer to fall. Here I need to use the word because and draw on my knowledge from what I already know. It might look like this. As this seed gets bigger, it takes longer because it has a greater surface area, and so there is greater air resistance. Here I am providing a reason for my description. I am saying why it takes longer for a larger seed to take longer to fall. Plotting a graph now turns all of these numbers into something more visual. Your graph should have an x-axis, goes across, labelled size of seed in centimetres. It should also have a y-axis which goes up, labelled time for seed to fall in seconds. It should be a line graph, and you should have a line of best fit, not dot to dot. Your line of best fit should have a general increasing trend. If not, check your scale and let your numbers go from the origin from the smallest to largest number. As we mentioned earlier, we had an anomalous result, a result that does not fit the pattern of other trials. This is why we should do multiple trials and calculate a mean, because errors do occur, such as human error in timing, such as forgetting to press the start and stop, or reaction times might be too fast or too slow. And random error, like a gust of wind that might spontaneously come through the window and force the seed to the ground quicker than it would have done had the windows have been closed. All of these things make a big difference in scientific experiments, and it's okay that they do, as long as we identify them, explain them so that next time we can take these factors into consideration so our results are more accurate. And to finish off with the challenge, to explain which seed is most likely to be successful at germinating. For this, we need to draw on our knowledge together and use the word because, such as, the largest seed will be most successful at germinating. This starts off with identifying which one I think will be best. This now needs to be followed by a backup explanation, like because it takes longer to fall, so it has a greater chance of dispersing further away from the parent plant, and so it has less competition for resources. These can be tricky, but get easier with practice. Let's finish off with a little summary quiz to see how we got on this lesson. Question 1. Seeds need the right temperature, oxygen, and something to germinate. Water. Good job. Question 2. True or false? The food store of a seed provides a protective layer. This is false. The food store contains starch for growth. Question 3. What is the name given of a plant that releases its seeds? The parent. That's a sneaky one. Question 4. Which method of seed dispersal is missing? Wind, animal, explosion, and water. And final question number 5. There are 3 types of animal seed dispersal. What are they? You've got burial, exterior, so attaching themselves, or interior, such as getting eaten and passed through the digestive system. Nice work, everyone. Pause the video here to rate your progress of your knowledge on the methods of seed dispersal since the beginning of this video. It might help you plan some revision later. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. If you enjoyed it and would like to see more from Top Marks Science, you can like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for coming, and I'll see you next time.